past, a brighter day stretches out a glad new way. These words, beautifully written into Saint Lucia's anthem, once marked the birth of a nation free from colonial rule, forging its own destiny. Today, they echo again. They echo on the roads we drive, the energy we harness, and the choices we make. A new dawn is rising, not just for independence, but for energy freedom. From the sun above to the wheels below, St. Lucia is charting a glad new way, powered by renewables, driven by innovation, and free from the grip of fossil fuels. This is the story of a small island with a bold vision. This is the electric revolution. Let's get plugged in. Meet Mr. Francis, Energy Officer with the Government of Saint Lucia. His daily commute is powered not by gasoline, but by the sun. Under a solar canopy at the government's office, his Nissan Leaf charges silently, a symbol of what's possible when policy meets purpose.
This here is a 2016 Nissan Leaf. It has a 24 kilowatt battery. This Leaf is a very wonderful vehicle, I would say. Not just on saving you fuel, but actually is very good for the environment. It is a zero emission vehicle. That means it uses no fuel at all. Also, you have very minimal maintenance to do on this vehicle. Very few moving parts, no oil changes. So just regular servicing your brakes once a year, or just going through the vehicle, doing some updates. That's the most you will require to do on this vehicle. So really it saves you on the whole in maintenance costs and fuel costs. You save on the fuel. Government of Saint Lucia, it really is moving forward with implementing a lot of projects to do with e-mobility, electric vehicles. And this came about as part of a project that we developed with the Italians. So we got 3 electric vehicles. That's the only 3 in the government fleet. We have 2 of these cars and a small bus to make complement of our electric fleet. There is available at the ministry a 58 kilowatt carport with 2 level 2 chargers. So it's available to the public. That's why we charge these vehicles. So again, we are saving on electricity right there, using renewable energy to charge this vehicle. So we are reducing emissions on that side as well. There is on the island currently a charging network owned by the utility. There's 4 chargers, one to the north of the island, to the east, to the west, and to the south. The south has a level 3 charger. So that means you can charge a lot quicker, almost getting a full charge in like 20 to 30 minutes. Again, it depends on your battery size. Like I said, this is a 24 kilowatt battery. So on our level 2 chargers, we usually charge it for around 4 hours to get a full charge. It also comes with a level 1 charger and has a 14 amp plug, and we usually do an overnight charge for this one. We are currently doing our national fleet transition strategy as well. We are going to look at all government vehicles and see if there are possible replacements for them in terms of EV. One of the things we've done as well is to remove or to reduce the import duties on these vehicles. So currently you pay 5% on a hybrid vehicle or a full electric vehicle. So again, we are pushing e-mobility, and hopefully it will be the thing of the future. Everybody can own an electric vehicle. There are models available. They can be purchased locally. So we are encouraging people to come therein.
To drive change, you need more than vehicles. You need skills. Mr. Perry Thomas, Executive Director of the TVET Council, is helping shape the region's occupational standards for EVs. St. Lucia is aligning training across CARICOM, preparing technicians, educators, and students for an electric future.
Here in St. Lucia, we as a council regulate the TVET systems. And so for us in St. Lucia, the introduction of electronic vehicles is not new. However, we must admit the adoption of EV is slow, but it's not as, say, for instance, what exists in Barbados and Jamaica or Trinidad, for instance. But it is important, and it's a significant milestone for us to achieve the standards that are currently being developed. And so by having those standards, we are equipping our workforce with the necessary skills and knowledge to ensure that the introduction of that technology in St. Lucia is well maintained, and that the sector is equipped with the necessary capacity to create a level of sustainability with for its continuity. And for us in St. Lucia, there are significant benefits for using EV technology. St. Lucia, for instance, in 2023 adopted the energy policy. And as part of that policy, it's that we are aspiring to reduce our carbon footprint by decarbonizing the transportation sector. There is a greater need for training. And so at a micro level, you find dealerships are training some of the individuals, but at a macro level, we need to broaden that training landscape to bring in the private garages, to bring in individuals who have their own interest in developing new businesses that looks to introduce EV vehicles or new dealerships for instance.
At Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, innovation is hands-on. A teacher and student, it's more than a project, it's a statement that clean technology belongs in classrooms, not just showrooms.
My name is Cornelius Gideon, a lecturer at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, Department of Engineering and the Circular Economy. Behind me, what you will see is a bus, which is fully electric, was converted by myself being the lecturer and students from the Department of Engineering as well. So what we have is a 88 kilowatt hour battery, and the motor itself is rated at 100 kilowatt. We have tested it. We actually did around the island with it, and we've noticed that it did hold up completely well. We left on 80% charge, and we came back at 30% charge, which speaks very good to this bus being practical on our roads of St. Lucia. I am very impressed with what has been done so far, and it would be a game changer for us in St. Lucia and the region to actually move in the direction of electric transport or electric mobility, to say. We have noticed the increase in fossil fuel. The prices of fossil fuel is going to be up the roof pretty soon. And if we can incorporate alternative modes of transportation in our day-to-day, it will be very beneficial to us as a country. So I wanted to just show you some of the features of the bus. In here, as you can see, we have the devices that actually control the motor, the battery. Every single device is electric, so we have an electric AC compressor. We have an electric water pump that actually circulates the coolant into the batteries, into the motor for cooling. And also we have an electric power steering, right? So we have an auxiliary battery that literally powers up the 12-volt system for your radio, your horn, your lights and so forth, yeah? Which is pretty much the same as the ICE engine. Okay, so what we did, we took off the diesel engine that was previously in there. We had to design a bracket to put all the components in there. We kept the original radiator, and then I'm going to show you the original radiator from the ICE engine. So we kept the original radiator. That's the original expansion tank, your reservoir for your windscreen washer. Your brake booster, which remains the same, but the only thing about it is controlled electronically. We have a vacuum pump that actually provides a vacuum for the brake booster. Everything else is the same as the regular highest bus. I must say that this bus, if governments of the region wishes to pursue sustainable mode of transportation, that would be the way to go. It's one thing where you have to stop at a gas station and fuel up every week. It's something else where you have to maintain your vehicle every 3 months. With this electric bus, there is minimal maintenance, where you have no oil, there's no transmission, there's no fluids that you can actually put in there. There's no need for an air filter, an oil filter, a gas filter. There's no need for none of this, which means that all those savings goes into your pocket, right? Also, this bus is also equipped with what you call regenerative braking, where when you descend in, it actually slows the vehicle down. And in doing this, it actually sends that power, generated free kinetic energy, back into the battery. What this does, it prolongs the the life of your brake pads. Okay, so for persons or for bus drivers, that in itself would be extreme benefits to them, especially if they're applying a route that is in high demand. The technology is not new; it's been there for decades. Is now we are embracing environmental changes, and one of the things that we start to pay attention to is how we move from point A to point B safely and sustainably. And if that being said, I would urge persons not to be afraid of technology, embrace the technology. Electric is the way to go.
Yes, my name is Jonathan George. I attend the Saint Lucia Community College. My program is motor vehicle mechanics. This bus is what you call more efficient compared to gas buses to say because like going up hills, instant torque, power is always there, and when you go down a hill, it regens, so it recharges the battery, so you have to fill up less noise in a sense. So if, for example, you have to tell the bus stop, there's no way the bus driver cannot hear because the bus is quiet. There's no noise to say. So in a sense is better, especially for like minibuses. So like I would promote in a sense that more minibuses do that swap and go electric because it's more fuel efficient. Yeah.
On the streets, dealers are seeing a shift. The MG ZS EV is gaining traction, even on St. Lucia's rugged hills. Consumers are asking smarter questions about range, cooling, and cost. And while skepticism remains, the tide is turning.
From our point of view, we're looking forward to this implementation. The thing about it is that when you become convinced that there is a superior technology and a superior paradigm, it's just a matter of the fact that technology has to mature. Then you have to look two things. One, it's going to disrupt your existing business model, and two, you want to offer it to your customers as an option, with the understanding that you're preparing yourself for it, and as the technology becomes more viable, it becomes not an option, but it will become mainstream. So you have to start somewhere. And if you decide to do that when it's already obvious that the technology is going to be the predominant technology for transport, if you decide at that point in time when it's already become that you're just, okay, we're going to go into it, it's too late. You have to make those investments in training and operations and understanding and product and franchise and facility. You have to do that immediately as soon as you recognize that there's a disruption occurring. What we like is the product offers a far better experience to the customer, in our opinion. We are very, very clear. This vehicle, for instance, is about 2 years old now. So we've not serviced it, nothing. We have literally left it as it is for 2 years, using it internally. And it has functioned perfectly. There's been no service requirement for this car. The SUV format is what everyone likes. I think it's about 30% of the entire market is SUV because it has the ground clearance that customers want, while at the same time now having an EV drivetrain. This particular one gives you about 186 miles of range on a full charge, and will charge rather quickly, as a matter of fact. So I left the north of St. Lucia with 85% state of charge, arrived in Viewport with 66% state of charge, plugged it in to the charger, had a conversation with the guys. We were just taking some photographs. And by the time, about 13 or 14 minutes later, when we had done the shots, when I unplugged it, it was 81% state of charge. So it had, not only was it capable of going to the length of the island and back using just half the state of charge of the battery, but in 14 minutes, on a level 3 DC charger with a 44 kilowatt rating, it actually achieved virtually all of the charge that had been used on the 1 hour and 10-minute drive down, was reaccumulated in 15 minutes. So you can imagine, I had lunch that took 25 minutes. You could go to a supermarket, it might take 30. So you can imagine that your charge accumulation on a system like that would be more than enough to top you back up to actually 100%, which is not necessary. So that brings us to the applicability within small island states. They are extremely applicable in small island states. EVs at this particular point in time are at price parity with the concession in place for EVs. They're not at price parity without the concession. That will come. That's on its way, because a couple of years ago, they were not at price parity. Even if you gave them a concession, they were more expensive. But right now, they're generally at price parity when you consider the concession. So this, for instance, is right in line. This vehicle is right in is a competitor to things like the Yaris Cross, etc. And this is right in line with that, if not, maybe slightly more expensive, but we're talking 5 and 10. So that's within the variance that you would normally have between models anyway. Is the same size SUV configuration, all the rest of it, with arguably more value for money equipment, more equipment that has a higher value for money in its options and provision. So we're expecting that customers are going to be able to look at that and say, well, okay, so we're roughly at the same price, but the guarantee is that your cost of service is going to be less, minimal cost of service over the same period. And we've already done the calculations that show that in terms of cost of operation, which is charging as to fueling, what we've noted is that you can expect somewhere between 20 and 30% of your monthly cost in petrol will be your incremental additional cost on your electricity bill. If you are replacing a like-for-like vehicle, doing the exact same mileage and charging exclusively at your home. So we're talking about already clearly an over 60% savings, in your cost of operation, and definitely a significant savings, I mean a massive savings in your cost of service and maintenance. So when you tie that to roughly equivalent costing on the upfront price of the vehicle, your TCO, or total cost of operation, is definitely already lower. If you do a proper solar system, probably 6 kilowatt, and it's better to have a battery storage system too, if you can. But if you're minimum just doing 6 kilowatts, so you have a minimum of an additional amount beyond. There's a restriction in terms of what you can sell back to the grid in Saint Lucia. That's 5 kilowatts.
Okay.
Is what you can generate and sell back to the grid. Yeah, you'll now be significantly reducing the amount that you're charging off of. In terms of the performance and how it operates, especially in a country like Saint Lucia and a lot of the small island territories where we don't have the distance that we can use to, we're not building roads and houses only on the flat areas. We have to be on the mountainous terrain sections of the land too, because we have a limited amount of land. These things handle hills like nothing, like nothing. We've been, we've always been measuring our cars and how well they go up a hill with 4 people inside them. Well, I don't know any EV that's not running rings around any internal combustion engine, or at least the equivalent internal. The worst EV is better at that than some of the best internal combustion engine vehicles. So, I mean, all in all, the reality is that the performance aspect alone will sell most people before anything else is considered. Most people think, as a matter of fact, when people are coming into the EV space up front, the thought process is that the inconvenience lies with the fact that you can't charge quickly and there's no gas station to go to charge quickly. They're actually seeing that as an inconvenience and not seeing the fundamental convenience of plugging in at your home or your workplace while you're sleeping or while you're working. They don't see that as a convenience. It's like, oh, that's a maybe, that's an issue. Just a lack of knowledge, a lack of familiarity. It is obvious to anybody who thinks about it a little bit, and it is blindingly obvious to anybody who already has one, what's more convenient. It is not more convenient to have to be thinking into consideration that I need to stop at a gas station for 10 minutes. That's never going to be convenient. That's not it. The convenience is to be able to, as we're going to our mall right now, to go do the thing that you're going to do every week, which is grocery shopping, or going to a restaurant, or going to a cinema. And while you do that, you charge.
Some persons point to the battery degradation issue.
Right.
What are your thoughts on those two things?
Internationally, well, of course, we haven't had EVs here for long enough to to understand battery degradation as it might apply specifically to Saint Lucia. But I see no reason why that Saint Lucia would have some unusual characteristics to it that would cause degradation that would be atypical from what would be seen elsewhere. So if we're looking outside of our country at nations that have had EVs now for more than a decade, we're seeing degradation in the current and even the previous types of batteries. Let's say the current types of batteries. You're looking at maximum 12% degradation over the reasonable lifespan of the vehicle, say about 10 years. It, something like, I think it's something like 1.2% per year or something occurs.
Low, yeah.
And that is in situations in which they're in developed countries using fast chargers on a regular basis, which are the things that through heating and a constant fast charging, you tend to have the highest level of degradation. So we need to recalibrate the territories that are going to be territories where there is less driving, lower range, far less use of fast charging, and far more use of trickle charging and level 2 wall chargers. And in a scenario like that, we do not expect that we're going to see any degradation in excess of what's being seen out there. The biggest variable we might have, or the biggest impact, may be heat. And as far as we're concerned, the models that we want to bring in and the vehicles that are being created now all have battery management, cooling system management systems in the batteries. Some of the earliest EVs did not have that. And those batteries suffered significantly from the ambient heat as well as heating from fast charging. And that has been learned by most manufacturers that you need to have a cooling system. I think that we're not going to have any issue unusual with degradation. What most people don't realize is that when they buy an internal combustion engine, there's actually degradation on your engine, but nobody is either really seriously checking the fuel efficiency of their vehicle over its lifespan or its horsepower rating. But that actually degrades significantly with time, which is the reason why people sometimes overhaul their engines. But you're just not thinking about that. The watchword is battery degradation, but you're not going to notice anything that's going to affect your operations because that has already been proven, because that's the case in developed countries where those cars have been for the longest time. To your second point with regards to end of life, I'm looking forward to that tremendously. I think that the opportunity lies, every one of these cars, for instance, some of the smallest batteries are 33 kilowatt hour batteries. Some of the biggest ones might be 100 kilowatt hour batteries. Something like a 33 kilowatt hour battery could probably run a household for 3.5 days.
Even after degradation has occurred.
Even after degradation. So let's say
about
2.
10 kilowatts.
So just think about the fact that you could either spend a couple of $1,000s on a battery or a couple of $1,000s on a generator. What are you going to do? Which one do you think that you would choose? The one that has virtually no service and doesn't sound like anything when you have to turn it on? Or the one that the day you need it because you haven't activated it for 2 years is the day it's not going to work? I think that the end of life for all of these cars potentially is the use of these batteries in personal and grid scale battery storage systems, inexpensive grid scale solutions or personal solutions. You buy one of these batteries or a section of it, cells divided out and repackaged properly. You put that on the wall at your home, and even if you don't have a solar system, you charge it off of the grid, and then it gets the maximum charge. It stays there. The day you have a power shortage, you have your electricity come back on. If depending upon the size of the battery, you can decide I want to keep my fridges and my freezers operating, but everything else is fine, or I have a big enough battery that I can run every aspect of my house, the AC and all the rest of it. That's the future, and that's simple to implement. And I think that's a tremendous opportunity. It's entirely possible, I think, that as we transition to EVs, that the corollary of this is going to be the fact that our homes are going to all get battery storage systems, because the end of life, the obvious opportunity with end of life is going to be the use of these batteries. And if and when we choose not to do that, or we don't need them anymore, remember that a lithium ion battery can be recycled. 99.9% of it can, or 99.1% of it, I think it is, can be recycled. Government can develop systems by which we're sending these things out. And the value of what I think is called the black material or black tar, I can't remember what it's called, or dark material, which is the material making up the battery, is significant. I think it's $5,000 per ton or $2,000 per ton. So there could be a business case to shipping these out to recycle centers for them to be fully recycled in the United States or the UK or wherever. I think that we don't have a problem one way or another on that solution.
Across the Caribbean, the momentum is building. CARICOM nations are aligning on EV standards, reducing oil dependency, and embracing climate resilience. For small island states, the electric vehicles aren't just modern, they are strategic. St. Lucia's EV journey is just beginning. It's powered by policy, passion, and people. From government offices to college campuses, from solar canopies to converted buses, the island is charging forward. This is not just a story about cars, it's a story about courage, climate, and Caribbean innovation. Stay plugged in, St. Lucia.